Robocop Rogue City. Let's talk about this. I took my time on this video because I really wanted to savor this game. You know, like I put out the first impressions on the game ranks before you buy, but I really wanted to like completely 100% go through it and sit and think about it before I popped off and made a video here because if some of you don't know, Robocop is a big thing for me. I've been a fan of Robocop since I was like 6 years old or something like that. So this is going to be a very personal video. I know over here on this channel, like I do just kind of talk about stuff I love. And with Robocop's always kind of been up there for me with like Star Wars, Matrix, like just like those things you love, things you have kind of nostalgia for. But Robocop's a little different, and I definitely want to talk about why. And I got a little surprise, something I want to show you guys towards the end of this video. So the game I was very excited for. I had made it on my top 10 like most anticipated list last year. And now that it's out and I played it, I love it. I had a great time with it. I said this on the podcast, but it's like my critical brain can clearly see a lot of things wrong with it. It is a very flawed game, but it also delivers most of what I want from a Robocop game.
Pickles.
This is specifically, I think, because my standards are very weirdly specific. So what I mean by that is, like, hang on a sec. So in my little cabinet of curiosities, I'll have this more on camera eventually. This is what started it for me with Robocop. This is Robocop for the NES. Now, I was a 90s kid. I wasn't like old enough to just experience the launch of the NES or anything, but I guess I was like what you would call classically trained because maybe it was like financially or what we had available. But my first console in the 90s was an NES, not a PlayStation or a Nintendo 64. That came a little bit later. So for me, I had a bunch of hand-me-down games. I had like, you know, Mario 3. I had the Top Gun game, the Battleship game. I had Duck Hunt, a lot of the staples, but I also had Robocop. And this is what exposed me to the character. So with this game, like being exposed to it, Robocop for me was just cool robot guy with a gun who shot bad guys, and there was a cool music playing. That was it. It had the theme, it had Robocop, it had the gun, it had the intro. This would play, and like 7-year-old me would be like, hell yeah. I was a simple kid and I was easy to please, whether it was robots with guns, laser swords, space battles, or superheroes. I was in. And I mean, yeah, call me emotionally or like growth stunted or whatever, but I'm still into that stuff today, and I don't care. The thing with Robocop, though, is that it's not really nostalgia. I think Robocop falls into a category that a lot of special things that we love falls into. Specifically, the fact that you can be exposed to it at a young age, arguably too early. It was a couple of years before I actually went and saw the movie, but you can be exposed to this thing on a surface level and fall in love with it as a young, impressionable person. So Terminator is another perfect example. Cool robot that looks like skeleton, right? Like that's just sign me up. There were comic books, there were toys, all about it. So you have that love for it, you have that like surface level fun appreciation for things, but then these things like Terminator and really Robocop have so much more to them that as you get older, you see the movie, and then even as you get even older and maybe watch it again and really process it, the appreciation grows, not out of nostalgia for, oh, how cool is Robocop, but for all the other thought, the stuff really put into the end result. Robocop is really special because it's like on the surface, like, yes, very cool robot cop shooting bad guys. He's a former police officer stuck in like a robot body, and it's awesome, and there's iconic bad guys and all that. You know, it's a little smarter. It's got a little bit more to say. It tackles humanity versus machine, of course, but then also just totally lampoons. It's like a total satire on American culture at the time, and it knocks it out of the park. Not to mention how it toes a line of being absurd and cool and badass and serious when it needs to. That original Robocop movie, the Paul Verhoeven original Robocop, walks a perfect line and is like lightning in a bottle. I feel like you can't really recreate that. So for me, again, in short, it was really being exposed to dumb, silly Robocop on a surface level as a kid, growing into Robocop, the movie, the films, and the concepts therein, and just still being in love with it to this day. So Robocop Rogue City, although it is flawed, yeah, it does do a really good job balancing that, like walking that line, having the level of it that appeals to goofy, dumb little video game brain Jake, right? Like there's gore, the shootouts are great, there's destruction, it is simple. It delivers exactly what you want, right? But then it tries to really actually go after some of the higher concepts of the original RoboCop film. And, that to vary, the success is like varying, of course, on that level, but still, they go for it, they understand it, they try it, and I really just appreciate that. Specifically the shootouts, RoboCop does take damage, and further on in the game, you don't feel as indestructible as maybe you want to, but I commend them still for making a slow, plodding character into a first-person shooter. The visual, the HUD, the destruction just really feels distinctly RoboCop. That's where they sell it. The Auto 9 doesn't sound quite right, but it's like almost there, and the feedback and the guts and everything, the thwack of the bullets, the feedback really works. It is a very simple first-person shooter, but as it goes on, you get a couple of skills. You feel more and more badass, like ricocheting shots off of walls and ping, 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 and they're hitting dudes. Explosive barrels are everywhere. You're shooting them. Guts are flying everywhere. When it really clicked for me mentally was not too far into the game, but when you go with like the biker gang stuff in the quarry and you're fighting a biker gang that is riding on motorcycles, and you can grab dudes off the motorcycle and throw them. You can also pick up the motorcycles and throw them at other bad guys on motorcycles, and they'll explode. And it's just pure zany insanity to the perfect degree. It reminds me of the over-the-top ridiculous violence of the movies, yes, but also comes back to NES RoboCop, where some of the early enemies you encounter are, motorcycle gang guys on motorcycles. They're pixelated, sure, but you punch them and they explode. So we're kind of full circle here, and that really worked for me. Again, mechanically simple, but like it's got some good feeling shotguns. Again, I can't emphasize like a shootout in a room, and then the room after the shootout is all broken up, falling apart, glass is busted, sheetrock off walls. That stuff just really hits, but it also just appeals to that like video game fun brain thing. Like there is skill trees, there is collectibles and all that stuff, but if you just boil it down, it's like fun scripted little first person shooter. You get the experience. You feel enough like RoboCop, in my opinion. And I even was someone who was looking at this game like being like, why didn't they make it third person? I want to play as RoboCop in third person. After this, nah, I'm still in, especially because in that original movie, you see so much through Murphy's eyes, the perspective, that it makes sense for the game to be first person. It actually feels like a better translation. I know some people aren't going to agree with that, but go back and watch the first movie and then play the game. The first person perspective actually kind of makes sense. Ultimately, with the other stuff like Murphy's humanity and a lot of the questions you get to like ask and answer throughout the game, I don't know if they hit as hard, but again, a lot of it for me is the fact that they're trying. When they announced the RoboCop game, I was like, oh, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get the other angles of it. And story-wise, I'm still kind of 50-50 on it, but it's really the journey that I liked. It's finding a radio and hearing a radio commercial for like sleeping pills, but they're sleeping pills for your annoying kids if you're a parent. Like just shit like that really pokes fun at consumerist culture of the time. Like the fact that there's little humor hidden anywhere you go. You can find NPCs that just mumble funny things. To some of the writing, which I was shocked to see at some point, like RoboCop making ankle-breaking basketball jokes.
You are not the only ankle breaker on this basketball court.
And that's letting you off easy. I've seen him do way worse for less.
To the fact that they got Peter Weller, the voice actor, the actor of RoboCop, to say pickles.
Why do you think that Pickles is involved in your husband's disappearance?
I'm glad the game was somewhat comfortable with like letting the freak flag fly. It has that levity, it has that goofiness to it that I really came into it looking for. And then again, with the more serious stuff with Murphy himself, I'm 50-50, but everything else in the world, I really like. And the world design itself, I mean, man, it's got a lot of detail. It makes walking slow through everything really worth it because you are slower. So it helps that everything looks pretty, from the meticulously recreated police station, which in my opinion, was actually pretty jaw-dropping going through a lot of it, to the little details they got, like the car hitting the bump as it's pulling out of the police station, little things like that, to just old Detroit looking so detailed with brick and rubble and garbage, highway overpasses that feel realistic, grimy rain, convincing lighting. I was just surprised how hard this game flexes like level design and the visuals of it all, because for me, the environments sold half of this thing. From the world building stuff and smart choices of what they cherry picked from other Robocop elements, like Nuke being the primary drug on the street. Nuke is an element from Robocop 2, and I just really like seeing stuff like that integrated here. The billboards for Delta City, you see all of that. The world building is really, really good. To the therapist that you speak to and the conversations back and forth, again, like, you know, with what you can choose to say as Murphy, like having the choice is kind of weird as the player. Like, I care about the lore, I get, but it doesn't really matter at all. But, you know, with Olivia Branch being a victim of police collateral damage and having a missing arm because an Ed 209 like tore through, that's interesting. Like they put some thought into stuff here. I think Peter Weller does an okay job here because his voice is still so good. It's the other characters that really kind of fall a little short for me, like the captain, of course. Ann Lewis is extremely robotic and stilted, and that's a shame. The bad guy, the big bad, I actually think it was very creative. I won't spoil the whole thing, but the big bad, I found to be pretty creative, not to mention some of the enemy types that come along with him, and how that ties into little references from Robocop 2 made me extremely happy. But, you know, a lot of the characters kind of wooden, like Anne was disappointing, but it's offset with like the moments that are good, like when she's injured in the hospital and Robocop comes to visit her, he just talks work. He doesn't even think twice. It's great. But then coupled with like a side mission where you're going around the police precinct asking other cops to sign the get well card for Lewis, like that's good. I love that. I love the video game dumb drudgery side quest for Robocop actually kind of working. I think that's such a good example of Robocop stomping around a police station, walking up to cops and being like, will you sign this get well card? It really works. Presentation wise, it's not always all there. It doesn't feel like as like late 80s, 90s as I was hoping. It doesn't feel as like fuzzy. And the music, there needs to be more music, but where there is music, it's pretty great. Of course, the original theme, fantastic, but I wish they just played it like all the time. I'm biased, but like I want that music blasting every time I'm in a shootout. I get it would get repetitive, but for me it wouldn't, because again, I came to this game because I just wanted to be Robocop and blast stuff, and it really gave me that. All the other stuff I just talked about does make me happy. Lewis gifting Murphy his original badge, really, really cool, thoughtful stuff that slides in. But ultimately for me, it's about like the fun factor. And that's what this game has. Because again, graphically, presentation wise, you can point out all kinds of flaws. And I know I'm probably contradicting myself in this video. I don't care. I still just had so much fun. I was glued to the game when I was playing it. And at this point, I really hope that they can be trusted with a sequel. I actually would want to see them do more of this. Like the developers have taken on Terminator before this, I think they did an even better job here. And I'd love for them to like flip-flop and do Terminator games and Robocop games and just get better and better. And maybe even eventually build to a Robocop versus Terminator game. Now I'm getting crazy, but seriously. For a sequel, honestly, I just want more situations, more focus on the shootouts and stuff. The conversation dialogue stuff, I do like exploring the environments. They are gorgeous, but I just want more chaotic shootouts. I want to feel slower. I want to feel even chunkier and more like Robocop. And when we see Robocop, I think my one complaint with this game is that, and it's a testament to Peter Weller. Peter Weller's movements as Robocop were so incredible that even a video game where they can just build a actual robot man from the ground up, the movements, the animations in the game pale in comparison to Peter Weller walking around in a suit in the movies. So again, like that's a knock on the game, but really a compliment to Peter Weller and Robocop. I love the Ed 209 stuff. I would like to see more of that. And with how they got a little creative with the bad guy here, I think they could go even further with that in a sequel. I just think they did a pretty good job here. And I think part of it is again, coming from the fact that like I didn't have the highest hopes, but also I am simple. Again, it keeps coming back to this where I just wanted to be Robocop, feel like Robocop, and blow shit up. mission accomplished. And thankfully, it also managed to sell some of the smarter elements. It was a busy year with a lot of games that I can argue are better than Robocop City, from their construction to how they hook you to whatever. It doesn't matter. For me, this was like video game comfort food I was looking for. It's simple, it's a good time, it respects the character that I love for the most part. Yeah. That's really it. I actually sat down and like I took my time making this video and like coming up with some notes, thinking that I would have a lot more to say, but it's actually pretty cut and dry. I love Robocop. Clearly the developers of this game also love Robocop. You can feel it when you play it, and that pleases me. Also, because it's relevant, I'm going to talk about this more in another video soon, but I do want to share what I've been playing Robocop Rogue City on. This is the Falcon Northwest Talon. They sent this to me. So I've always built my own computers. I've never went with like a building company or anything like that. But when I worked with Falcon Northwest, I did challenge them to give me something that reminds me of some of my favorite things, a DeLorean and Robocop. And they delivered. This is their Talon mid-tower, but they went the extra mile for me and gave it an actual stainless look. Like they actually blasted off the anodized treatment and gave me this clean, bare stainless look. It's also got a 4090 in it. Holy shit. So yeah, I'm working on a PC gaming centric video and talk about what I have built in the past and my plans with this puppy and really all the details and specs about it. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, I do want to hear what you guys think about Robocop Rogue City, but really just Robocop. I'd love to talk Robocop with you guys. Let me know if you'd ever want to hear me do it like a longer video on the movie, the original movie, because I've gone in depth about like Spider-Man, Batman Begins, like some of my favorite movies, and I would love to tackle that with Robocop. So let me know, but let me know your experience with Robocop Rogue City. If you're waiting for a price drop, I think that makes sense too. But like if you bought it day one, how are you feeling on it? Let's talk anything. Robocop down in the comments. Thank you guys for listening to me yap about this one for so long. I appreciate it, but clicking the like button helps me if you get it. Either way, I'm Jake Baldino. See you guys next time. Pizza's on me. Subscribe because video games.
Pickles.
I'd buy that for $1.